Today I'm unboxing and reviewing the Hercules 13 amp 10,000 RPM angle grinder with trigger grip from HarborFreight. I'll show you everything that comes in the box, all the key features, and we'll test this thing out with a cutoff wheel and a flapper disc to get an idea of its general performance. Right out of the box here we have the 13 amp grinder itself, owner's manual. Looks like this thing came with 3 different grinding guards, 4.5, 5, and a 6-inch grinding guard. HarborFreight also included some threaded grinding wheels, 4.5 and a 5-inch. Came with the side handle, and then we have the arbor nut wrench. And looks like the arbor nut, yep, the arbor nut is on the spindle. The last item in the box is a backup set of motor brushes. I'm pretty surprised to see these in here. This is something that you would find 25, 30 years ago in a product. You would buy a power tool and it would often come with a backup set of motor brushes. Impressive. Let's talk about some of the key features and the specs on this grinder. First off, this thing has a pretty long cord. This thing measures almost 8 foot long. It's pretty long for a grinder cord. This thing is rated for 13 amps and 10,000 RPMs. So what does 13 amps mean? Well, in layman's terms, compared to say a 5 or a 6 amp grinder, it means you can punish this thing a little bit more before it's gonna fail. If there's any electric engineers out there who can explain that better, you can leave a comment and tell us what that means. Now, the handle that comes with this is ambidextrous, meaning you can have it here for a right-handed person, or you could put it on the left side for a left-handed person. But the truth is, most people just put these in a drawer and they never see them again. I do like to use a handle when I'm trying to get leverage on something, so I'll keep this thing around. Next, let's talk about the safety guards. There are 3, as I stated earlier. You've got the 4.5, the 5, and the 6-inch safety guard. All 3 of these are the no tool needed, which is nice, so you don't have to get a screwdriver to try to adjust these. What I don't like about these is the little rubber tab already came off of this one, so I've put it back on there twice. It does not say 360 degree, but there's quite a bit of range in here, so I think it'll work just fine. The trigger system for the Hercules grinder is built into the grip. This is actually called a trigger grip. So when you're holding on to the handle, the trigger is depressed by your finger. Let me show you on these other 2 grinders. These are the other 2 styles. You have a sliding trigger and then you have a paddle trigger. Another nice feature about this trigger system is it does have a trigger lock button. So for extended periods of time, you can lock the trigger into the on position. It also has a little safety tab. Most angle grinders do come with an arbor nut wrench. I like to take the twist tie that came with the power cord and attach it to the end of the wrench, and then take a Sharpie and write which grinder the wrench goes to, because after a while, you start to collect quite a few of these. Right now, at the time of making this video, I'm looking on HarborFreight's website. 328 product reviews for this. 98% of the customers would recommend it, and it has well over 4.5 stars. Let's see how much this thing actually weighs. I'm gonna put it on the scale here. So without any abrasive disc at all, it's 5 pounds 6 ounces. Let's add one of these grinder wheels that came with it. So we've got 5 pounds and 11 ounces. 5 pounds 11 ounces doesn't seem like a lot sitting there on the scale. After holding this thing for a few hours, that weight's really gonna add up. These things have to be heavy so that they're durable. You can't have something that's super lightweight. It wouldn't hold up. Also, at the time of making this video, this grinder retails for $99.99. This is Memorial Day weekend, so I did have a 20% off coupon. So if you have a coupon around a major holiday, you might be able to get one of these for 20% off, $100. Let's find out just how well this thing actually performs. I bought some 6-inch cutoff wheels and I have a 4.5-inch abrasive flapper disc. Let's do some performance testing. Before we start that performance testing, I want to take a minute and I want to talk about some safety. Most grinders do have a safety guard, and the safety guard is going to do a pretty good job of blocking flying debris, but you really need to protect your eyes. Grinders make a ton of flying debris. I like to use safety glasses like these. These are actually readers. These are from 3M. But when you're using a grinder, you should really consider using a face shield. I'll put together a list of affiliate links of some of my favorite protection equipment for grinders, and I'll drop it down in the video description. Attaching the flapper disc to the Hercules grinder is pretty straightforward. I'm just lifting off the arbor nut. I'm putting on the flapper disc and putting the nut back on. It has a spindle lock, so you just hold the spindle lock and turn the wrench and tighten it up. All right, so here are my first impressions of using the flapper disc. This thing is a beast. It is heavy, and it certainly stripped away the rust that was on this 2-inch steel angle. What I was most impressed with was how well it reached in there and got inside there in the corner. And it did that because the safety guard is adjustable. So you can adjust that safety guard to the back so that you can stick that thing in there and it'll reach in there and it'll grind. Now let's put on a 6-inch wheel and see how good this thing is at cutting steel. To attach the 6-inch cutoff wheel, I have to switch safety guards. I'm gonna put on the 6-inch safety guard, which is pretty easy because this thing is quick connect. Now I'll put the 6-inch cutoff wheel onto the spindle and tighten the nut. Well, that went a little better than I expected. Having the ability to have a 6-inch cutoff wheel on a grinder is pretty impressive. This is 1/8 inch steel, and this thing cut right through it. Is this Hercules grinder from HarborFreight worth $100? You're gonna have to decide that for yourself. When you do, let me know in the comments down below. I think this thing is pretty versatile. To be able to go from 4.5 inches to 6 inches and have safety guards along the way is pretty clutch. And I only paid $80 because HarborFreight runs super coupons all the time for 20% off. I'm glad you watched, and I hope you watch again.